In this video, you're going to learn how the valves direct the flow of air through the trumpet, making it possible for us to play different notes, as well as learn the 7 descending valve combinations. So the trumpet has 3 valves, each with its own corresponding valve slide. So here we have the first valve with the first valve slide, the second valve with the second valve slide, and the third valve with the third valve slide. Now, each of the valves has these little tunnels that go through it that control the passage of air. And when we don't have any of the valves pressed down, the air simply travels from the mouthpiece, through the lead pipe, through the tuning slide, into the third valve, and then from the third valve, it travels into the second valve, then from the second valve, into the first valve, and then finally leaving through the bell. Without any of the valves pressed down, the air completely bypasses the first, second, and third tuning slide. Now when we press down a valve, what we're doing is rearranging the position of those little tunnels inside the valve so that the air can travel through the corresponding valve slide as well. This increases the total length of tubing that the air travels through and gives us a lower pitch. So we'll start with the second valve. You'll notice that the second valve slide is the shortest of the 3 valve slides. When we press down the second valve and then increase the length of the trumpet by this amount of tubing, we're going to get a note that is 1/2 step lower, or 1 note on the piano down to the next note on the piano. So if I play a G and then press down the second valve, I'm going to get a note that is 1/2 step lower. Now, if we take a look at the first valve slide, you'll notice that the first valve slide is roughly twice the length of the second valve slide. So when we press down the first valve slide, we're going to get a note that is 2/2 steps lower, or 2 notes down on the piano. And then finally, if we look here at the third valve slide, we'll notice that the third valve slide is roughly 3 times the length of the second valve slide. So when we press down the third valve, we're going to get a note that is 3/2 steps lower. Now, the third valve alone is not a commonly used valve combination. It tends to be a little bit more out of tune and doesn't quite sound as good as the other valve combinations. So to make up for that, we can achieve the same effect 3/2 steps down by pressing the first and second valve simultaneously. 1, 2, 3. Now, if we continue along in the same way, we can get a note that's 4/2 steps lower by combining the second and third valve. 1, 2, 3, 4. The next note, 5/2 steps down by combining the first and third valve. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then finally, we can get a note that's 6/2 steps lower than the G by pressing down all 3 valves simultaneously. So those are the 7 descending valve combinations. Open, second, first, 1 and 2. Remember, we're going to scrap third valve for now. So 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 3, 1, 2, and 3. Now you'll notice that I stuck out the third valve slide here when I played the first and third valve and the 1, 2, and 3 valve combinations. The reasons for that is because these two notes, which are called D and C sharp, are particularly sharp on the instrument. So we need to extend the third valve slide a little bit just to get those notes in tune. Those are the only two notes that you're going to need to control the third valve slide for. Now, if we play all 7 of the positions in succession, we get what is called the chromatic scale, and that sounds like this. That's the same sound you would get if you walked over to the piano and just hit each note going down to the next note and then right back up again. So once we get down to the all 3, the series then starts over at low C. So my practice suggestions for this video then are to first memorize the descending valve positions. Open, second, first valve, 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 3, and all 3. Once you have those pretty well memorized, you can recite them off. You can just do them on the trumpet without actually playing. Then start to practice your chromatic scale with a metronome. So I've got my metronome here set to 104 beats per minute, and I'm going to play 1 note per click. So keep in mind everything that we've discussed so far. You want to have a nice posture. You're breathing, taking a nice full breath, filling from bottom to top, blowing the tongue out of the way on the attack. You've got a good grip on your horn. Your right thumb is on the valve casing. The pads of your fingers are striking the valves, and your pinky is floating in the air. So once that becomes reasonably comfortable for you, you can do the exact same thing starting on low C. Once you're getting a nice fluid sound through the chromatic scale starting on the G and the C, you can start to cross over between the two series. So what I mean is just start on different notes. So now I'll start on an F sharp instead of a G. So that one will then end on low C. Now I'll start on an F. And that one ends on a low B. If this seems a little bit complicated right now, don't worry about it. You will get it with practice. So go memorize your 7 descending valve combinations. Start to practice your chromatic scale nice and slow at first until it's comfortable for you. And again, just continue to challenge yourself and have some fun with this. I'll see you on the next video where we're going to discuss the other way that we change notes on the trumpet through an exercise called lip slurs.